The blood was still warm. Alexis crouched beside the corpse, fingers steady as she checked for vitals. Nothing. Professional hit. Clean entry wound behind the left ear, execution style. The kind of work that required patience. Trust. Status report. The voice cut through her earpiece, clipped and precise. Keshara's accent carried the musical cadence of her homeworld, but underneath ran steel. 3 months of partnership had taught Alexis to read those subtle harmonics. Right now, they sang of suspicion. "Target's down," Alexis said. "Someone beat us to it." Static. A pause that lasted exactly 2.7 seconds. Alexis had counted. "Impossible," Keshara replied. Intelligence confirmed the meeting. Valdris was scheduled to arrive at 3 a.m. Alexis stood, scanning the warehouse. Shadows stretched across abandoned shipping containers like broken promises. Port Westwick had been dying for decades, but tonight it felt like a grave. Well, someone changed the schedule. The mission had been straightforward. Too straightforward, Alexis now realized. Intelligence operative, alien handler, criminal syndicate. Standard deep cover infiltration. Get close to Valdris, extract information about the Northbury weapons shipments, disappear into the night. Except Valdris was dead, and Alexis was standing in a warehouse that reeked of setup. "There's more," she said, kneeling again. Her fingertips found the small device tucked beneath Valdris's collar. Standard listening equipment. He was wired. Someone was monitoring the meet. Keshara's silence stretched longer this time. When she spoke, her voice carried harmonics Alexis had never heard before. Something that might have been fear. "Alexis, check your 6." 3 figures emerged from behind the shipping containers. Professional spacing, military bearing, the kind of coordination that came from years of working together. Alexis counted weapons, ammunition, exit routes. Her hand drifted toward the compact pistol holstered against her ribs. "Kesh, I need extraction. Now." "Negative. Maintain cover. I'm 3 minutes out." The lead figure stepped forward. Human, mid-40s. The kind of face that had seen too much and forgotten how to smile. "Agent Alexis, I presume." Her cover was blown. Had been blown, probably from the moment she'd walked into this operation. The realization settled in her stomach like cold metal. "You seem to have me at a disadvantage," she said. "Several disadvantages, actually." The man gestured, and his companions raised their weapons, beginning with the fact that your partner is currently in our custody. Alexis's blood went cold. "Prove it." The man pulled out a small device. Keshara's voice emerged, distorted but recognizable. Her words were in her native language, but Alexis recognized the rhythm. The specific cadence Keshara used when she was in pain. "We intercepted her 15 minutes ago," the man continued. "Remarkably, she hasn't told us anything useful. Yet, but the night is young. What do you want?" "Information. Specifically, the location of the Southwick facility your organization has been investigating." Alexis's mind raced. Southwick was classified above her clearance level. If she'd known about it, that would have been valuable intelligence. The fact that she didn't know made this conversation more dangerous, not less. "I don't know anything about Southwick, Miss Alexis." The man's smile was the kind that belonged in interrogation rooms. "Let's not insult each other's intelligence. Your handler was quite clear about your mission parameters before we began our conversation." A new voice cut across the warehouse's comm system. Keshara, but speaking in standard this time. "Alexis, primary objective is compromised. Initiate contingency 7. Contingency 7. Alexis had memorized the protocols, but she'd never imagined using them. It meant the mission was a complete loss. It meant getting out alive took priority over everything else. It also meant Keshara was telling her to run. "Touching," the man said. "She's trying to save you. Unfortunately, that's not how this works." Alexis moved. Combat training kicked in. 3 opponents, enclosed space, limited cover. The first rule of survival was simple: create chaos. Alexis dove behind the nearest container as gunfire erupted. The metallic ping of bullets on steel filled the warehouse like deadly percussion. She rolled, found new cover, counted ammunition expenditure. "Kesh," she called into her comm. "Status, contained but mobile," came the reply. The harmonics in Keshara's voice had shifted again. "Pain, yes, but something else. Determination. Southeast corner, service entrance." Alexis processed the information in milliseconds. Keshara was giving her an escape route, but it meant crossing 30 meters of open ground under fire. Possible, but not probable, unless— "How many guards?" Alexis asked. "2, plus the 3 engaging you." "Copy that." Alexis checked her weapon. Full magazine, 1 spare. Against 5 armed opponents, the mathematics were unforgiving. But mathematics didn't account for human unpredictability. She pulled the incendiary grenade from her belt. Standard issue for warehouse operations, designed to create confusion and cover smoke. She'd never used one in an enclosed space with a partner still inside. First time for everything. "Kesh, in 15 seconds, southeast wall is going to get very hot. Be somewhere else." "Understood." Alexis pulled the pin, counted to 3, and threw. The explosion lit up the warehouse like artificial dawn. Smoke billowed across the space, and the automatic fire suppression system engaged, adding steam to the chaos. She moved through the confusion like a ghost, heading for the southeast corner. Keshara was exactly where she'd said she'd be, crouched beside 2 unconscious guards. Her alien features were harder to read than human expressions, but Alexis could see the tension in her posture. Dark fluid stained her left shoulder. "You're bleeding," Alexis said. "It's manageable." Keshara's voice carried new harmonics. "Relief, maybe. We need to move. They'll have backup protocols." "Agreed. But first, tell me what you told them about Southwick." Keshara's head tilted slightly. A gesture Alexis had learned meant confusion. "I told them nothing about Southwick because I know nothing about Southwick. Why would I? Because they said you gave them information about my mission parameters." "Alexis." Keshara's voice went very quiet. "I gave them nothing. But they knew details about our operation that I never shared with you. Frequency protocols, handler rotation schedules, information that came from inside our organization." The implication hit Alexis like cold water. Someone had sold them out. Someone with access to operational details that went beyond her clearance level. "You think this was a setup from the beginning," Alexis said. "I think," Keshara replied, "that someone wanted us both in this warehouse tonight. The question is why." Sound echoed from the main warehouse. Voices, coordination protocols. Backup had arrived. "Time to go," Alexis said. "There's something else." Keshara's posture shifted again. "Before we move, you should know that the Southwick facility they mentioned is real. It's a weapons research station. Classified, but not from my government. Meaning it's a joint operation. Human and alien technology. Someone is building weapons that combine our respective capabilities." Alexis processed the information. Joint operations meant shared intelligence. Shared intelligence meant shared vulnerabilities. "Who else knows you're here?" she asked. "Only my immediate handler." "And who handles your handler?" Keshara's silence stretched long enough for Alexis to understand. The corruption went deeper than field operations. It reached into the command structure itself. "We're on our own," Alexis said. "Yes." They moved through Port Westwick's industrial maze like shadows, Keshara navigating by instinct and Alexis by memorized street maps. Behind them, the warehouse continued to burn, casting orange light across empty loading docks. "Question," Alexis said as they reached the extraction point. "When you were captured, why didn't you give them real information? Something valuable enough to buy time?" Keshara's response came after a moment. "Because that would have compromised you. You barely know me. 3 months of partnership doesn't exactly constitute deep trust. Perhaps not. Keshara's voice carried harmonics Alexis was still learning to interpret. But in my species, partnerships are not casual arrangements. When we commit to working with someone, that commitment becomes absolute. They reached the safe house, a nondescript building squeezed between 2 abandoned factories. Alexis checked the perimeter while Keshara activated their emergency communication protocols. "There's something you should understand about humans," Alexis said while she worked. "We have this concept called pack bonding. We form attachments to our partners, our teams, our units. It's not entirely rational." "I am familiar with the concept." "Good, because when those gunmen mentioned they had you, something changed in my head. The mission stopped being about intelligence gathering or weapons shipments, or whatever bureaucratic objective brought us here." Alexis finished her perimeter check and turned to face her partner. Keshara's alien features were difficult to read, but her posture suggested attention. "It became about getting you out alive," Alexis continued. "Everything else became secondary. That incendiary grenade could have killed us both, but I threw it anyway because leaving you behind wasn't an option. And this is typical human behavior. When we decide someone is part of our pack, yes, it's typically human behavior." Keshara's silence stretched long enough for Alexis to wonder if she'd shared too much. Interspecies partnerships came with cultural barriers that missions briefings couldn't address. "In my species," Keshara finally said, "we have a concept that translates roughly as battle bonding. It occurs when 2 individuals face death together and choose to prioritize each other's survival over objective completion." Sounds familiar. It is considered one of the highest forms of partnership. It transcends professional obligation and enters the realm of personal loyalty. Alexis checked their extraction schedule. Pickup in 37 minutes. Enough time for debriefing and medical attention for Keshara's shoulder wound. "So what happens now?" she asked. "Now," Keshara said, "we report that the Southwick investigation has been compromised at the command level. We recommend a complete review of operational security, and we request permanent partnership status for future assignments." Just like that, just like that. Keshara's voice carried new harmonics, something that might have been humor. After tonight, working with anyone else would feel like a betrayal. Alexis found herself smiling. The first genuine smile she'd managed in months of deep cover work. "You know, for an alien handler, you're remarkably easy to work with. And you, for a human operative, are remarkably difficult to kill. I'll take that as a compliment." "You should." Outside, Port Westwick continued its slow decay. The warehouse fire had died down to glowing embers, and morning light was beginning to filter through the industrial haze. Another mission completed, another set of secrets exposed. But for the first time in her career, Alexis felt like she'd gained something more valuable than intelligence. She'd gained a partner who understood that some loyalties transcended mission parameters. The extraction vehicle arrived exactly on schedule. As they climbed aboard, Keshara spoke quietly. "There will be other operations, other warehouses, other moments when everything goes wrong." "Probably," Alexis agreed, "and we will face them together. Wouldn't have it any other way." The vehicle pulled away from Port Westwick, carrying them toward debriefing and whatever came next. Behind them, the industrial district settled back into its usual quiet decay. But the partnership forged in that burning warehouse would prove more enduring than the weapons they'd been investigating. In a universe where trust was rare and loyalty rarer, they'd found something worth protecting: each other.